Okay, everyone, I decided to go ahead and move forward with the removal of all the factory audio hardware. I'm referring to the amplifier, the CD changer. What else is back here? All the fiber optics wiring is disconnected and tied off. We have here now the wires that are exposed. I unwrapped them all so I can see what I have here. Now, this is abnormal for most cars. Only the S-Class and the CL-Class does this that I can think of. The Mercedes, the radio up in the front that you see does not contain everything that you need in order to do an upgrade. You have to tap into the wires in the rear. Okay, so the wires in the rear come from the amplifier. Okay, first of all, it sends a signal back to the amplifier and in the rear, and it amplifies the signal and then sends them out to the individual speakers, okay, throughout the car. All right, so you have to run wiring. You have two options. You can tap into these wires right here, which are the ones that go to the individual speakers throughout the car, okay? This plug right here plugs into the amplifier. So this is the post signal, right? This is the output of the factory amplifier. It has all the wiring right here that you need that runs to each individual speaker. You have to identify what wiring runs to what speaker. All right. So what I did with my yellow CL that I had, I tapped into these, ran new wiring from these up to the front, to the head unit. That's one option. A lot of work. I did have to remove the rear seat, and I got all up under the carpet and everything. Went through the glove box, I think, if I remember correctly. The other option, just thinking off the top of the dome, is to run RCAs from the back of the radio. You have RCA outputs. You can run that and then tap into these. Let me see. Run that to the. Okay, if you have an external amplifier, you already am going to have an amplifier for the subwoofer. All right, I can have also an amplifier for the individual speakers. If I'm going to do that, then I need to run RCA cables from the rear of the new aftermarket deck, run them back here to the amplifier, just like how the factory has it. It sends a signal from the factory radio back to an amplifier and then sends it to the individual speakers. I have the same option with the aftermarket deck, but that would require an aftermarket amplifier. I run a signal, RCAs, from the aftermarket deck to the aftermarket amplifier, and then I will plug in these wires to the output. Most of these amplifiers have a high signal plug, and then you would just run them to these speakers. There's 5 here. I think you have like a center speaker, and then you have like the 2 up in the front, on the sides, left and right, and you have the rear, left and right, if I remember correctly. I wish that somebody came up with a plug and play, because this right here is the signal from the factory deck. This plug right here, these wires right here, it's encased inside of here, this hard plastic shell, a flexible plastic shell, rubber, whatever. I'm sure they're very small wires. This is from the factory deck. I wish that someone just did a plug and play and would allow you to plug this into this. Then I would just really tap into the wiring behind the deck. I wouldn't even have to do any cutting and identifying what speaker is what. If that exists, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll have to decide if I want to do an aftermarket amplifier to each speaker, or just run them right off the deck, which would mean I have to run wires from the back of the deck, you know, the regular standard plug that has all the 4 different sets of wires to each 4 speaker. I would have to run those wires all the way back here and then tap into this. Okay? Because these are the wires that I need to tap into the back of the deck. I just have to run them all the way back up to the front. I hope I'm not confusing anyone, but I learned all this when I disassembled my yellow CL a few years back. So I'm gonna take my time with this one. I'm gonna do this one better than I did the yellow one. Again, I removed all that stuff right here. This is the driver's side, rear. I can show you what it all looks like. You already know. Maybe you don't. If you haven't pulled the carpet back, you don't see it. But here goes the stuff right here. CD changer. I don't know. There's a lot of components here. Well, I realized also that I have to tap into the antenna signal, because there is an amplified antenna signal in these cars. And let me see. I think this one right here runs to that whole antenna system that I have to tap into. This one right here probably comes from the deck. And in this right here, I assume I have to, check the schematics or the wire diagrams. And I believe this one runs all the way. I think it runs up under the rear seat. There's like a lot of stuff right there, and I think that's where the amplified antenna signals module and all that kind of stuff is. All right, so I'm gonna take my time. There's no rush. We have the COVID-19, so everybody's stuck in the house anyways. There are no car shows. I have no reason to rush. So while I'm back here, I'm gonna go ahead and get this together. I'll keep you updated, or I'll let you know when I'm done, one or the other. There's no rush, man. I gotta figure out if I'm going to add a second amplifier just for the signal, for the speakers, the door speakers, or if I'm going to just run the wiring and wire from the deck to the speakers. And I'm gonna be honest, with a nice deck, with a nice aftermarket radio, you don't need to amplify that signal to the speakers. These are the factory OEM Mercedes speakers. They might be Bose, I don't know what they are, I can't remember, but they can handle the signal from the radio just fine. You have to be careful sending an amplified signal to these speakers, because we don't even know the ohms and the impedance and what they can really handle. And if you blow one of those speakers, you're gonna be pissed, because now you got to disassemble so much to get access to them. There's no reason to upgrade the factory speakers in these cars. These are not Honda Civics, okay? These are Mercedes with top of the line audio of its time. And unless you have a blown speaker, I don't recommend you pulling those speakers out and upgrading them. It's not necessary. Okay, if you just run it right off the deck, I think they'll still sound good. Now, prove me wrong. And I'm kind of hypocritical, because I did that when I had the yellow car. I actually put like some Kenwood speakers or something in there. It wasn't necessary. I think I had a blown speaker. So I said, well, I'm disassembling this interior. I might as well just replace the speakers. Anyone who has information on that, like, do you need to really upgrade the speakers? Let me know. But going off of what I can remember from a few years back, you don't have to. Prove me wrong, because I don't know. All right, I'm just going off the top of the head again. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty confident that what I said was correct, but I could be wrong. I'm wrong all the time, but in this case, I don't know if I am. All right, anyways, I'm just talking. I'll keep you posted. Update you later on. Holla.